ghosts from the past. The first time I arrived in Paris, I anticipated brocade-covered surfaces and gilded tableaux. I assumed the streets would all be tree-lined boulevards, and everyone spent their days leisurely sipping coffees in cafes. Instead, Paris turned out to be like any other enormous, grim metropolis, a city full of hustlers and chancers, too industrious for romance. I ticked off the requisites, positive they would help me unlock some hidden magic. I climbed the Tour Eiffel, dreaming of twinkling fairy lights, only to be met by cold steel and overcast sky. I inspected the entire Louvre and came out dazed and overwhelmed. I tasted all the stereotypical delicacies and discovered them disagreeable to my palate. The second time I went to Paris, I was prepared to encounter the smells, the itty-bitty sidewalks, the faulty elevators. I decided Paris was a tortuous puzzle that required focusing on the architectural details of yesteryear in order to solve. I gaped at Gothic cathedrals searching for enchantment. I mused over Haussmann aqueducts for their charm. I studied Art Nouveau entrances in quest of that elusive je ne sais quoi. All I ended up with were too many photos of statues and cornices. Turns out getting to know a city requires more than falling in love with its former style. I've avoided Paris since, convinced it had nothing to offer me. Recently, though, perusing old photos, I found myself reflecting on the version of me back then, the one that had decided it knew exactly what it wanted, the one who only looked for perfection. Of course, the city has changed during the decades, but I'm hoping I've changed too. So when opportunity knocked, I answered. The younger me would have arrived armed with an agenda, but I've learned to appreciate not scheduling everything in life. This time, I spent hours sitting on a chilled park bench, watching a woman in a neon pink suit make a phone call. I leaned my elbows against a wintry railing on the banks of the Seine to study how the mercury light I'd hated before rippled and slithered across the flowing river. I marveled at the selection of face creams in the neighborhood pharmacy. I prepared tea on the stovetop of my apartment. Back then I'd yearned for a quintessential Paris, but I've grown wary of fettering the concept of authentic to culture. Instead, I tasted the city in falafels and tagines, listened to buskers rapping in the metro, spent a rainy day touring a shopping mall, nursed a glass of mezcal in a dark speakeasy thumping 90s electronica. Someone leaned over to complain about how disappointing the Mona Lisa was. I grinned. It's something another version of me would have done. I murmured sympathetic noises and advised them to try the bartender's calvados to ease their troubles. As for me, I had no complaints. I even went to see some of Monet's water lilies. There was a time I would have scorned such pedestrian behavior, but I happily gaped at the entrancing blue-green swirls, losing myself in each shimmering brushstroke until what was paint and what was pond merged into a surreal medley. Now that I wasn't diligently expecting to encounter glamour around every corner, Paris opened itself up to me in unexpected, beautiful ways. I spent a beguiling half-day playing house in a decadent royal chateau, unrestricted by crowds, able to run gleefully down the empty, vast galleries and peruse intricate rococo furnishings to my heart's content. I poked into disheveled gardens, camouflaged behind crooked alleys. I bakery hopped to sample croissants at their various buttery levels. I was definitely no longer the person I'd been in my previous visits to Paris, but everywhere I turned, ghosts from my past walked alongside. There was the me standing on the Palais Garnier steps, forlorn because I couldn't afford tickets to an opera. There was the me futilely scouring restaurants for the ideal coq au vin. There was the me sobbing because I couldn't find the most marvelous souvenir to purchase. I used to think there was only one kind of Paris to experience. How wrong I was. I can't change those other versions of myself, nor would I want to. They've helped bring me to the present, helped me learn and change who I want to be. Instead, I'm offering those ghosts the grace they wouldn't have known how to give themselves. I'm showing up for them without judgment in a city whose own ancient spirit is ever ready to reveal its layered, complicated selves under strange, mercurial skies.